how to make YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram videos your audience will love. I always make sure that I get this bit out of the way because I was once in the cinema and they went through all the trailers and the beginning part, and as soon as the screen came up, the name of the film, this little couple got up in front of me and walked off, and they were like, "Oh, we're in the wrong film." So if you're not here for that, then you're in the wrong place. But if you are here for that, then YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram videos your audience will love is what we're going to be discussing today. So this is kind of the agenda. The process of making content on your mobile, vertical video platforms, best settings for your mobile. A lot of the time I get asked this question because we've got 4K, 8K phones now. Cheap equipment to consider and stuff that you should steer clear of. The structure of good examples and how you might replicate that as well in your own organization. And then we'll look at editing as well. And then at the end, we can have your questions. So first things first, we're gonna go for a poll. I'm gonna try and do this, Emily, see how we go. Right, so let's launch this poll here, and hopefully you can see what platform are you aiming to get your content on. It's a multiple choice one as well, so really it doesn't have to be just one or the other. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, still very popular. LinkedIn, excellent. So there we are, 100% answered. Thank you very much for that. So still, nobody's really interested in MySpace, but that's cool. So yeah, a lot of the content that we're going to be talking about making will work on every single one of those except for MySpace. So we'll be making one type of content, vertical content, vertical content, portrait as it's also known as, and that will be able to work on YouTube Shorts. It'll be able to certainly work on TikTok. It'll be able to work on Instagram, and also you'll be able to use it on LinkedIn as well. And all of these platforms are sort of like prioritizing their video over and above the normal text or pictures as well. So the reason for that is it keeps the user on there for longer, so they get to see more adverts. And with the rise of TikTok, it's become apparent that they really want to capitalize on that market. So here's your results. Sorry, I didn't show you the results. Instagram first, YouTube second, TikTok just coming up third, and then LinkedIn as well. So let's stop that and go back to that, and I will just close that. Sorry. To be and there we are. So there we are. Right. So moving on to the process. Now I believe that the video that you create is shaped three times. During post-production, so pre-production, when you look at what your strategies and your goals are, it's like, what are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to raise awareness for our organization or ourselves? Are we looking to maybe promote something? And you sort of shape that around what you're looking to achieve. It's great to follow trends, but sometimes you can get lost in the noise. So sort of like channel your own path. Script creation. How do we go about doing that? Do we need to write a script? Can we not just show images? The talent, the characters. It might be that you've got maybe a dance company and you want to have some of your dancers featured, maybe behind the scenes, or talking about a museum exhibition that's coming, and maybe speaking to an expert there about why it's so important. The equipment, which we're going to obviously cover as well, and the teams. Do we need anybody with any specialist skills? For what we're going to do, I'd say no, but we'll see. And location needs, more often than not, you've got access to the building, but at what times of the building are going to be suitable? Is it going to be early morning when there's not a lot of people coming in, or is it going to be certain parts of the time of the day where maybe the light looks really nice? So these are all our considerations. Production, lights, the camera, what we're going to need, conducting interviews, and then the B-roll. Now the B-roll is that cutaway stuff. So it might be like they're talking about a book or an artifact, and we cut away to the shots of the artifact whilst they're doing their interview. And by doing that, you're able to cut out any mistakes that they make. So as you can just hear, when you're speaking live, it's not easy to sort of make a coherent sentence. So we can edit that down and make sure that it's all nice and gets to the point. And by doing that, we're going to have lots of jump cuts, and we can cover those jump cuts up with nice, lovely bits of B-roll. But we have to think ahead. You can't do it in the edit. You need to do it during the production stage. And then when it comes to post-production, we need to get our footage maybe off the phone and then onto our desktop editor, or we can do it all in the app. We need to shape the story again. So we've overcome the sort of like we know what our strategies and goals are. We've overcome maybe the lack of anybody wanting to do it. We've got into the production. We realized it was really noisy on the day and we struggled to get the right thing that we needed, but we got there in the end. And now in post-production, we're trying to make the best of a bad situation, because it never quite turns out how you expect it. But through experience, you kind of learn to just roll with the punches. And you can go, oh, okay, that's fine. We can't do this, but at least we can do this. Then the music helps. Then the first edit. Then you send it off to approvals with your manager. And then they say they hate it. And they got no idea that you went through production hell and pre-production hell, but you carry on. And then you get your final delivery and you send it out into the world. And then you forget about it. No, you don't. You start promoting it from there. So we're going to come back to this time and time again, I guess. But this is something that you'll sort of like think to yourself, where am I in the process? Where are we at the moment? Am I in pre-production? Am I in production? Am I in post-production? And that will help sort of determine how many more steps you've got left to go, and whether you can jump a few. You can say, well, I don't need talent, and I've got the equipment I need, and the location is mine. I can use that whenever I want. So some things you won't need. So vertical videos, or portrait as well as what they're known as, have really exploded in the last sort of 3-4 years. Obviously, musically went into TikTok. TikTok is incredibly popular, and as a result of that, YouTube launched their shorts about 2 or 3 years ago. They started off, I think, in India to start with. I remember there being quite a lot of buzz around these new vertical videos that were doing so well, and as a result of that, a lot of content that was on TikTok has now been sort of repurposed for YouTube Shorts. And some of the numbers that certainly organizations that I've been keeping an eye on have gone through the roof. They might maybe get 3,000 or 4,000 views for a traditional horizontal landscape video that lasts about 5 minutes, but they're getting 60, 80, 90, 100,000 views for a short vertical video. And the algorithm is getting much more advanced, so they're able to determine what kind of content that person's interested in. They listen to what's being said in the video, and it helps them to sort of identify what audience would really benefit from seeing your content. So, but when it comes to the numbers, shockingly, we're into the billions. But monthly active users for TikTok is 1 billion, 1.5 for Instagram, and 2.56 for YouTube. And YouTube obviously is the second largest search engine in the world as well. So we've got a bit more ability to really keyword and describe our videos on YouTube to help them sort of find the audience that they deserve. When it comes to monthly usage, obviously YouTube has much more usage than say Instagram, but TikTok is fast catching up. So it may feel like right now you think, how are we going to stand out? There's so much competition, but I believe you're in the right place at the right time, and there is an audience out there for your content. And because it is only a minute long, we're not taking up too much of it. Could be 10 seconds long, 20 seconds long, but you're not taking up too much time. So there's every chance that you can get in front of people much easier than what you would have done if you was making the longer form content. As a frustrated filmmaker, as you can see by my title sequence, that is horrible to hear, because I want to be making grand, beautiful, sort of like long form pieces of work that really sort of like look wonderful. I don't really want to be shooting stuff on my phone, but unfortunately, it's probably one of the necessary evils to make engaging vertical content, which then helps to promote the bigger stuff, the longer stuff, the more in-depth stuff as well. So use it as like a kind of a marketing tool to get your content in front of as many people as possible. So next poll, right. Now, the last one was a bit sort of slap hazard. So let's see if we can go for this one here. So we're going to launch the poll. Are you making videos already? I'm really interested to see this actually. So if you can check that out and whoa. So are you currently making vertical videos? Yes, we're smashing it. And we're here to tell you a thing or two, which is great. Because to be honest, I want more people to share their experiences. And when they overcome sort of, I don't know everybody's resources and everybody's time. So if you can share your stories with us and help others to feel inspired, I'm all for that. Yes, but we're not getting the audience we deserve. Fantastic. No, that's not fantastic, but we can cover that. No, we're unsure of the process and don't know where to start. That's fair enough. And not yet, I can't get anyone to understand my vision. That I put that in because when we started the Digital Culture Network, it took ages for anybody to sort of even think about a YouTube channel. So I just made one and then we got permission. I'm not suggesting you do that for a second, but it's kind of worked out for us. So I'm just going to end the poll, share the results. And as you can see, it's solid mid-band, you know. So yes, we're not getting the audience we deserve, and no, we're unsure of the process and don't know where to start. Well, that's great because I believe that this webinar is going to cover that. And if not, one-to-one support will certainly go some way to that as well, and that's something that we can do afterwards. So let's stop sharing, and that good. It's gone. That's much smoother than last time. Right. Moving on to best settings for your phone. So this is the camp that don't know where to maybe start. They obviously use their phone every day. They look at other people's content, but we're not quite sure where to start. In this day and age of 4K, 8K, I can't remember, Samsung done an 8K phone, and I thought that's amazing, but I can't imagine the file sizes that uses up. And then what happens is when you upload it, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube goes, hang on a second, how big is this file? No. We're going to really reduce that down and we're going to squash it down. And YouTube does a really good job of compressing it down to the point where, you know, I done some filming for my daughter yesterday. She's doing a short film. We uploaded it to YouTube, and it didn't look anything like how I imagined it. It was very dark. It wasn't pixelated, but it just didn't seem to have the level of quality. So the bigger the file size, the lot more likely it's going to get absolutely compressed within an inch of its life. So I kind of stick to the basics, which will give you two things: one, better quality when it's uploaded, faster quality when it's a faster time when it gets uploaded, but also it means it takes up less space. It's easier to work with, so therefore it becomes an enjoyable experience and not some sort of burden. So the format that I always stick with is 1080. I've got an iPhone 12, something or another, and it's obviously a few years old. I still haven't got to the end of its data because I don't want to shoot in 4K. I'm not trying to make a Hollywood movie. 30 frames a second. In the film world, it's 24 frames a second, but 30 frames a second for some reason is what YouTube and TikTok prefer. And this is the iPhone settings. I did try to do the Android settings, but I realized that there was Google, there was Samsung, and it just ended up being a nightmare. So we was going to end up looking at tons and tons of pages. But from what I gather, it's very similar. So that's the way I do it. I always set up with those with those settings to start with. And one of the additional features that I always put in is I put a grid in, which is a very faint grid, which enables me to line the shot up and compose it. So if I'm because we're talking vertical video, you've not got a lot to play with, but you can still sort of choose to whether have it slap bang in the middle or maybe off to one side. And you'll see in a little while, a little bit later, there's an example of me actually making some content for a pottery using my phone, and I use the grid all the time. In fact, I don't even look at it now, but it just helps to sort of like just glance at it for a moment and just get it there. And you can turn it off and turn it on as much as you like, but it just helps to sort of compose those shots and just get the composition just right. Now, a lot of the time I get asked, we've got a little bit of money, and when I say a little bit of money, like sub £50, what equipment should I be considering? What equipment should I sort of like steer clear of? how can I get my video looking like this, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop sharing, and we're going to go to, right, hopefully I'm big screen now because we tried this a little while ago. Right, first things I always like, there we go. First things I always like is radio mics like this one I've got here on my shirt. It's on the camera at the moment, so I can walk, as I'm going to prove, I can walk all the way down here, and it's still on. So so that's great. You can also put it onto this. So if you was like doing sort of like vox pops, so if you were going to talk to people about their experience, you know, and you want to stick that there, you can click this off, stick it onto here, and then you've got the freedom. So you can have one person who's doing the filming, meanwhile the receiver end, which is just like this, goes into the phone. So therefore you've got the ability to literally have that kind of roaming reporter, right? But one of the things that, so there you can get those for about they're about 100 quid actually. So but this is probably the best thing that I've ever bought. It's about 5 years old. It's made out of like cheap sort of like plastic. You can get metal ones. But what this does is it means I can take my phone, and I'm gonna have to go off camera here, hold on. And I can put it in the cage. And what that does is that just gives me a little bit more purchase for when I want to do some sort of shot. So I'm not holding on to the phone. It also means I can stick it on a surface and do sliding shots like so, like that. If you want to do horizontal, you can do that as well. But it also has, I don't know if you can see that, focus, lovely. It also has these little points at the top here where you can stick your accessories. So for instance, this is, hold on, dropped it, hold on, there we are. Haha. This is so much like QVC, it's untrue. Right, so this here is a Rode Video Mic Pro, focus, come on, there we are, focus, there we are. Shouting at it helps. And what I do is I've had this for like ages, decades, no, not a decade, but maybe about 7 years. And it just goes on my camera, it goes on my phone, and with this little lightning adapter, because I've got an iPhone and that's how they roll, I'm able to plug this in. So what I do is I stick this on here, and that goes on nice like that. That's not going nowhere. It's got a little shock mount as well. And then I stick that, hold on, God, I need an assistant. This is like, there we go. Right, right, so there we are. So by doing this basically is like a directional microphone. So if you're pointing the camera in front of somebody and you've got a lot of noise backwards and forwards and behind you, this cancels that out. Now the iPhones and the smartphones are absolutely fantastic, but they still pick up a lot of ambient noise. This cancels that out and basically gives you that directional sound. Best of all, say you don't want to go on camera. Say you're a museum and you've got a new artifact coming in and you want to go, just want to film behind the camera, but you still want your audio to be nice. If you just turn the microphone so it's now facing you, you can then go, and today we've got an amazing piece in today, blah, blah, blah. And you've got wonderful audio coming straight from you, straight into your phone. And so you don't have to go on camera. This is one of the things that a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to go on camera, you know. And if you're in a big organization, maybe you don't want somebody to go on camera. You don't want them to be the face. But it doesn't stop you from actually being behind the camera and doing some bits and pieces there. Also, I'm just going to get this one here. We've got another little bit at the top there where we can stick this on the top there. So that fits on the top. So this is an LED light panel, which I'm using to light me at the moment because the sun keeps going in and suddenly becomes really dark. So this was about £20. This you can get for, I think it's about £25, what we have to lightning adapter, so yeah, 50 quid. Best of all, because it's got a tripod mount as well, you can stick it on a tripod, which I realise now I'm using the tripod now, so I can't show you, but it sits on the tripod, and also you've got one there as well, so you can stick it on there. So if you're doing, you'd obviously put the camera in the right way up, but if you're doing sort of any kind of documentary kind of stuff, or you're asking questions, this is the exact setup. If I was in a pinch, this is exactly what I would use. One of the other things that I use, now we're in England, so it's not always sunny. But this is a variable ND filter that just clips on your phone. So what you can do is when it's really bright and sunny, with your phone on the automatic settings, it'll go, oh, it's really sunny. This is going to be all overexposed. I know what I'll do. I'll raise my shutter speed. And what that does is that then means that your video looks really, and that's the best way I can describe it. It basically increases the shutter speed to sort of compensate for all the light that's there. If you stick this on, it's literally like having sunglasses for your camera, and you can adjust it, and it, I don't know if you're going to see that. So look, there you are. You can just, no, there you are. So you can just see my bald head there. If I turn it, it gets darker and darker. It kind of works on as a demonstration, but that was like about a tenner. And that, when it's really sunny, I just pop that on one of the lenses, and all of a sudden I can darken it, and then I can still keep it in auto settings, but it doesn't automatically default to the sort of like the bad setting. It doesn't go, oh, I need to raise the shutter and so on, so on, so on. So it just keeps it really quite sort of cinematic, which is always a good thing. So they're my two, no, more than that. Oh, there's many a tip there. It's many a tip there. So that's the kind of things that I would always sort of say are the ones to help you get started, the ones that are like kind of like essential. And as I say, I've had that plastic grip thing for like since I started the DCN with the DCN, so 5 years, and it's been mounted to tripods. I even tried sticking it on a car bonnet once. So you know, it's good for what it does. So and it's not that expensive. Right, let's hopefully go back. Yeah, lovely. That went back better than I expected. Well done. You'll find that I'll well done myself every so often. So one of the things that, you know, it's all well and good having the best, you know, equipment, the best phone, but sometimes you just sometimes need a little bit of inspiration. And it's kind of a bit difficult to kind of find some good examples at the moment. There are people out there who are doing some really great work. Sometimes it's not quite arts and culture. Sometimes it's not from, you know, the UK, wherever. So I've come across a few people who have got significant numbers in their viewing numbers, and I'm going to share those with you in just a second, so you can see for yourself what kind of good looks like and how many thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, and sometimes millions, they can achieve. So if we look at like that 3 minute long traditional style of video, the sort of like your horizontal video, the sort of ones that we were making for YouTube, you know, a few years ago, and they were doing okay, but you know, you weren't quite getting the audience. We'd always start off, in the way I edited it was I'd start off with sound bites. So I follow a channel called Film Courage, and what they'll do is I'll have a indie filmmaker sit and talk about their process, and they'll always start it off with a sound bite to sort of like pique your interest. So it'd be like, yeah, well, I made the entire thing on a budget of 10,000, and you're like, really? Oh, I'm gonna stick around for this. And then they show a few images of the project to sort of like signify its value. So you kind of go, well, actually, it doesn't look like it costs 10,000. It looks like it costs a lot more than that, actually. And then you start cutting to the actual interviewee and the talking head, and then that sort of coincides when as they're talking with the B-roll, those bits of like behind the scenes footage, or the making of, or something along the lines of like actual bits of the film itself, the final product. And then they sort of like kind of end it with like a sort of a strong messaging and in an outro, and it kind of works quite well for pretty much everything that I've done. So if I've ever done a sort of a documentary about sort of anything, that's where we always start with a sort of a nice sound bite that sort of like piques people's interest, because when they're watching a YouTube video, they've seen the title, they've seen the description, they've seen the thumbnail as well, so thumbnail and the title, and then they want to know within the first few seconds that this video is for them, and they're not going to waste their time. So that in itself is like, you have to show them what they can expect, and sort of like make sure that they're aware of what's going to happen throughout the video, and just put their mind at rest, and they're not wasting their time. With shorts and vertical videos, it's very, very different from that. You really have to hit the ground running. So this is how I see the winning structure of the short. And I've done an awful lot of looking at the content, and sort of like seeing, you know, the typical length of a video, how long they are. Is it a 15-second one? Is it a 20-second one? Is it a 30-second one? Where does it all fit, and in what category do they sort of sit with? With a short, they really hit the ground running, because within that first couple of seconds, you really need to start to sort of engage with your audience. More often than not, for like the historical ones that I've noticed, they always start with like a question. It's like, did you know back in medieval times, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no, I didn't know that. And it's like, or, you know, the best form of XYZ was a so. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize that. And you, before you know it, you're sort of halfway, 3/4 of the way through, and then it comes to its sort of abrupt ending, as they mostly do. And then sometimes, if they're really clever with it, they'll finish the video off by saying, "And now you know," or "And that's why," or it's "And that's the best." Or they make it so that the ending sounds like the beginning. So before you know it, you realize you're watching the same video again for a second time. That's great for the algorithm. Yeah, that's like, oh wow, we've struck gold here. So the algorithm then starts thinking, well, hang on a second, that person loved this video so much that they watched half of it again, and so maybe we should share this with other people. And then that's sort of, it sort of learns about sort of, you know, people's habits and what they're used to seeing, and what they're likely to really engage with, and your video will be amongst that. So sort of it all comes good in the edit, but you kind of have to think about how you're going to sort of show the sort of what you're trying to achieve. It might be like a behind the scenes where you're literally just, this is the set being made, this is the new exhibition being put up. It might be a time lapse. It might just be something fun that's only taken a few seconds to set up, and you've just like for instance, if we was in a gallery space and we was hanging up a load of paintings, I'd stick the camera in the middle. I'd stick it on hyperlapse or time lapse, whatever your device calls it. And it'd take a photo every 1 second, and then you'd have all of that busy activity going on. And you can then you can get your sales pitch out and say, you know, really looking forward to the opening event of our new blah blah blah. Preparations are underway, and then you got that. That sort of like motion. That'll take seconds to set up using the cage and a tripod. You'll have no worries with the cable bit, the camera being stable. You're not gonna sit there and hold it. So that's the sort of like ideas behind some of the things that I've seen work really well. So in the process, we understand what our strategy is and our goals. We might have had to create a script. We've looked at our talent. We kind of go, right, we're going to have to get somebody to at least be a hand model for what we're doing. We've pretty much got the equipment we need, and we know where we're going to film. So what sort of goes? Where do we go from here? Well, we move into sort of production, and that's when sometimes it's really good to sort of just get a bit more inspiration from what other people are doing. I find that I can have an idea and I can have it sort of mapped out, but sometimes you might just see something which might be completely unrelated, and you kind of go, actually, I want to do that kind of shot. That shot looks amazing. I want to see how I do that. Or they make a good point in that video. I think we should introduce that to our video. So you're always constantly sort of developing it, and that's definitely the way to go forward. So shorts that rise up. 4 examples of winning formulas: short story, a response, a challenge, and a behind the scenes. So we're going to look at firstly the short story, which is a lovely little story, which hopefully will not leave you too whimsical at the end. I'm going to mute my microphone, so hopefully you'll still be good, and I'll come back when it's done.
When a book is absolutely life-changing, I want to start leaving a surprise gift. for the next person who checks it out. And that's definitely how I feel about When Languages Die by K. David Harrison. I was very alarmed to learn that out of the 7,000 active languages we have today, about half will go extinct during our lifetimes. Here's the author of the book with the last living married couple in the world that speaks the Os language to each other. And this book does a really good job of explaining what exactly will be lost when their language dies. A wealth of hyper-local knowledge about plants and animals, unique ways of telling time or making maps or keeping a calendar. One linguist said that when a language dies, it's like someone dropped a bomb onto the Louvre. And so this was a really fascinating and honestly pretty emotional book to read, the way that it feels to hear that coffee might be going extinct within the next 40 years. No, seriously, it might.
So there you are. So that would be a great if you were in a library. I mean, we was in a library for our Grow Your Digital Skills last week in Brighton. Yes, it was. And I just looked around, knowing full well that this was the webinar that I was going to be making. And I thought all of those stories, they don't have to be sort of like fiction. It could be something that's sort of like maybe recipes. It could be all kinds of things. There was a sea of sort of inspiration there. So that introduced the premise. So, did you know that there are languages that are going out of that are going to be extinct? Obviously, the challenges and obstacles. Well, if there's only two people left speaking it, there's likelihood it's never going to survive, and therefore we're going to lose all of that knowledge. The resolution isn't really a resolution; it's more of just an acceptance that that's going to happen. But it does sort of nicely sort of put a beginning, a middle, and an end into one short video. Now, I could probably make that last 10 minutes, and I could stretch it out, and it could be really thought-provoking. There'd be sort of like sunrises and sunsets and snow and slow-mo and stuff like that. But essentially the nuts and bolts of it were done in 60 seconds, and it works so well. And everybody I've shared that video with have kind of gone, "Oh, I didn't know that." Nobody seems to be bothered about the coffee at the end, but they do seem to think about languages that are not being spoken as much anymore. And maybe closer to home, you start thinking, well, Welsh and I don't know, Essex. So yeah. So who knows? So I'll move on to the next one. This is like this hopefully will sort of make you think about it. At the moment, we're talking so much about AI. AI is going to replace this. AI can do this better. AI can do that better. But there's some things I always believe that are going to just, that you just can't. It takes a human to interpret it a certain way. And I think until we get to that stage of AI, we'll always be looking at pieces of art like this and going, "Wow, actually, that is incredible," particularly when you break it down. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to carry on showing you this.
Here's a painting that AI could never create. It's The Seventh Plague of Egypt by John Martin. This painting depicts that Bible story where Moses stretches out his staff and the Lord sends down fire to Egypt, which, if I plug that phrase into Midjourney, I get a painting that looks like this. And I think the reason why this image will never hang up in a museum is because it lacks any kind of contrast. John Martin's composition is built on these really carefully constructed contrasts. Light versus dark, the God of Moses versus the God of Egypt, the terrified citizens versus their dead ancestors. The biggest contrast divides the whole composition in half diagonally, pitting the stability and engineering of society versus that swirling chaos of the heavens. I think the reason why contrast is so powerful is because it's literally how we create meaning. Here we have just a sad woman, but if we contrast that with another symbol, we can create a meaning or change it, which is a big reason why this painting is full of so much energy, but this one, not so much.
For all you Taylor Swift fans out there, that's a bit of a low blow. But she seems to be happier now. That's right, big thumbs up from somebody there. And some smiley faces, lovely. So this one here, right, I want you to try and imagine this not as a ginger bearded man flinging people up in somewhere in America. I want you to imagine that this is a English dance company, ballet company, contemporary dance, whatever it may be, and just kind of go, actually, yes, this would work. So we're setting out a challenge, you know, how easy is this person who's never done something like this before able to, with practice, which we're going to document, able to achieve the impossible. And I'm going to show several attempts before perfecting it just at the end. So you as the audience are like, whoa, I'm going to sit around for this because I want to see that person succeed. You know, it's a story of sort of rising up. Anyway, so just imagine ballet, English, contemporary dance, folk dancing, whatever dancing you want to do, just imagine that in this situation.
What's your name?
Hana.
Have you done acro before?
No, not really.
Jump and sit. Like that. Good. And then reach back and touch the ground.
Wait, just like I'm doing a heavy handspring?
Yep, really slow. Good. And then feet over the top. Good. 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 Down. Up. Good. Down. Up. Nice. That was no hands, right?
Yeah.
Down. Up. That was good. And go to bird like this. After you land. Down. Up. Yeah, bird. Yeah, good. We'll just keep doing that. And then eventually we'll land in bird. Down. Up. Oh, you okay?
Sorry.
No, that was good. You can land in bird now.
Yeah?
Yeah, 2. Down. Up. Oh, cool. We can do it. Down. Up. Ah.
Almost.
Yeah. 1, 2. Down. Up. Oh, I had it.
Ah.
Down. 1, 2. Down. Up. That was it. Nice. That was good. Hey, high five.
How she doesn't break a rib, I'll never know. Every time, I must have watched that about 30 times now, and every time I kind of wince every time because I think to myself, yeah, that could so go wrong. But yeah, like that's a really good example of showing several attempts before perfecting it just at the end. And what was nice is they've got subtitles on there, so you get to hear what you know, what they're talking about and key moments in there. Also, for you eagle-eyed people, you'll notice that the microphone that I'm wearing is actually clipped to his hat. So not only is he getting nice audio for himself, but he's also getting it for her as well. So it's, you know, so it comes off really quite well. And the camera is just, you know, 3 meters back on a tripod. Really, really simple. All the work is going into the actual performing of it. There's no wacky camera shots. So after extensive scrolling through YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, I've come up with the Goldilocks length, and I want to share that with you now. So from your 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 views, right the way up to your 2 millions. When I say 2 millions, the chap that talks about the book and the painting got incredible engagement and so many views. Some of his go up to 1.5 million, I think, at the moment. He's got about, I think, 3 million subscribers. He's not got a museum or a library or a gallery crammed full of stuff. He's literally just, you know, going out there and finding it. So it's really quite interesting. So looking at the best length in terms of viewer numbers, 60 seconds is by far the most successful. Second to that is 15 seconds. So, but the 15-second ones are fine in terms of sort of just maybe like a really quick commentary about something, you know. But by and large, the 60-second ones really do hit the spot when it comes to viewing numbers. So I can't remember how many I've saved in my playlist now. It's well over 600 videos that I've saved in my playlist for this sort of webinar to just try and get an idea. And I use a program called vidIQ, which we'll send a link out in at the end of the webinar. But vidIQ has got a new feature, AI, which helps to sort of look at trends, look at what's been sort of requested, and also give you ideas for longer form videos as well now as shorts as well. So if you are sitting there scratching your head, maybe you can think of 3 or 4 videos, but you know, you think, oh, how on earth am I going to come up with a series of videos? Because to be honest, the more successful the channel, the more videos they have had. So typically, I was talking to Google last week, and they were like, "Yeah, well, 100 to 200 videos," and I'm like, "What?" But that's like, you think to yourself, how do I get started making that? And it's just, it's like, how do you eat a really big meal? You take a bite one at a time. So I just think that you need to sort of like get into the swing of things, start making little bits of content, getting used to it, not putting technological roadblocks or editing bits in your way that's going to prevent you from being creative, and just enjoy the process and just come up with new ideas and be inspired by others. And then eventually you'll look back and you go, wow, we've got 50 videos, 60 videos, 70 videos, whatever, and we're getting incredible engagement and we're sort of blowing up. The YouTube channel that we started 5 years ago has got lots and lots of content on there. But it started off with like one video. Everyone has to start off with one, and your first video is going to be awful, right? When you look back, the 1 to the 100, when you look back, you go, oh yeah, that first one, I don't know if I want to delete that because it's not very good at all. But your first video is the stepping stone into the next one, and so on and so forth. And just quality will improve as you go along. I promise you that, because every video that I do is slightly better than the last one. I still make mistakes with audio and with camera placement or with something else and other, because if you're a one person band, you've got so many things going around in your head. I've got to do this and I've got to do that and I've got to make sure I've got to do that and blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, you make silly mistakes, but you won't make that mistake second time around. You'll go, I'm not going to do that again. Stupid lens cap, or forgetting the memory card, or whatever it was that prevented you from having the best experience ever. So just know that you will have to go through the process, but you will get there in the end, and one video after another will get you there. 60 seconds is the one that I'll always stick to, because I feel like the others are just if you're going to put the effort in, you might as well make it go to the 60 seconds as opposed to 30 seconds or 45 seconds, because you're potentially missing out on quite a lot of an audience. So, right, the process of making content on your phone, vertical videos, we've all covered that. The best settings, we've all covered that. Now we're going to move on to editing, and sort of like we've gone through this production process here. So we've set up all our cameras, all our lighting, we've conducted our interviews, we've captured the B-roll, and what we've got now is we've got the raw materials, whether that's in our phone or maybe we're going to offload it onto a desktop. So I wanted to use this opportunity to show you how I go about doing things. So this is a video that I shot last week at Turnpenny Pottery in northeast Lincolnshire. I had to do that. I was driving through so many places. I thought, wherever this is, I've got to make sure. A tiny little bespoke pottery. Ollie was really generous with his time and was showing me the process of how he takes his cast. Oh, I'm going to really ruin this now, aren't I? But his molds, and then dips them and fires them and gets them into sort of like this wonderful cup and teapot and other things like that. As you can see, sometimes it's better when you don't know what you're talking about, because it's like you can go complete in and ask the most stupidest questions like your audience would expect. Don't ever assume that your audience knows exactly what you're showing them. Just go in there and just take one for the team and just go, well, I don't know anything about pottery. I drink out of enough cups, but I certainly don't know about this. So without further ado, let's get on to showing you this. We'll do the process of how the sort of the clay gets mixed to the molds, from the molds to the kiln, from the kiln to this bit here,
the finished,
and then with the finish, and then the glaze. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in this cage. Yeah, 30 frames a second. Yes, 1080. Yes. So we don't have to worry about 4K. Don't have to worry about that. It's pretty much on auto, which is exactly kind of how we want it for the time being. Right. What I would do is literally I would just do sort of over the top and then straight into sort of like it turning a few seconds. As you start to pour in, so you're going to sort of go in there, and then I'll sort of come back to sort of reveal that. Yeah.
nice.
Is that water there for what?
That's for no reason.
Okay. We've got a cat that drinks only from on the tables. Lovely work. Lovely. So that there, we've got the option of using that shot or it might be that the pulling away shot is even more dramatic. And spin it for me. So this is me offloading the footage onto CapCut, which is a free piece of software which I highly recommend. You can use it on the mobile phone app on Android and iOS, so Mac as well, or iPhone. But I basically offloaded all the footage, stuck it onto to CapCut, and this is obviously a speeded up version, but I was able to do it sort of in chronological order, and just to sort of just have a bit of fun with it, really, just to show the behind the scenes. I was there for a couple of hours, and probably the whole process would have taken maybe an hour. But obviously I was filming the behind the scenes, so I had to make sure that I was lined up with the shot and so on and so forth. So, Ollie could probably do something like this all the time. When it comes to the glazing, when it comes to the geometric patterns that he's created using software, and then makes it into a mold, and then from there he sort of gets them out and sort of like takes care of the rough edges and so on and so forth. So, right, the bit you want to see. So this is the behind the scenes. This is what I've done, and it cost us time. It didn't cost us anything else other than time. And those cups will actually fit together. So if you're looking for like a his and hers sort of cups, they fit together. It's like quite sweet. So yeah, so there's Christmas sorted. Thank you, Ollie, for letting me do that. But hopefully that sort of shows you just sort of like behind the scenes how, and he probably has a better idea of the process than certainly I did. So I was constantly sort of saying, what's next? Where are we going from here? I felt like I was sort of rushing him along, but it wasn't. It was just trying to understand where the process went next. So we've offloaded our footage, we've added it into our NLE, non-linear editor, we've mixed around with the whole images backwards and forwards, left and right, we've changed the timeline, we've shaped the final story, we've chosen our music, and that's the one thing I'd say that CapCut is really great at. Because CapCut is from the people who make TikTok, you've got a vast catalogue of music, which is just absolutely fantastic. So you've got the ability to pick songs. I mean, I just went 5 down and just picked that one. I could have picked anything. They're copyright free as well, so you don't have to worry about them sort of being striked on any of the platforms. If you wanted, what is the name of I can't remember the name of the website, but there is a platform where you can actually license really famous songs, but it is quite expensive. So I'd only ever suggest that if you're really sort of like, got a lot of money to do that. But if you're looking for royalty-free music, then definitely CapCut has you covered. Obviously, YouTube has the same ability as well. I think somewhere in there they've got like maybe about 300 songs, but it's nothing compared to what CapCut's got. So obviously, you then send it off to your manager. They then hate it, send it back. And so on and so forth, and you go round and round and round. I think at this time it's worth looking, sort of like get a reality check. Now, as you may have guessed, I am an incredibly frustrated filmmaker, and if I was making the next great indie feature film starring Ana Dames, shot on location using hundreds of extras, I'd probably edit it on DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, and if I had to, Premiere. So these DaVinci Resolve is free. It's quite good as an editor, but it's stumbling. It's a complex sort of thing to get your head around. There's so many features that you may never use. So it's kind of like it's overkill. It's like a friend of mine said, it's like bringing a sledgehammer to break a walnut. So you just want to keep life as simple as possible. You know, it's fun when it's easier because then your skills will improve and you don't feel like you're at such a significant disadvantage to start with. Even if today I jumped on Premiere, I'd be like, what? Why is it so complicated? You know, I like things simple because it keeps me from thought to screen. I want it as seamless as possible because then it makes it much more enjoyable. So I will bang home about CapCut until the cows come home. And you don't have to do vertical videos. You could do square videos. You could do horizontal videos. You choose exactly what the project looks like. So here we've got a rather speeded up version of my camera roll as I'm uploading footage onto CapCut. So just downloaded the app from the App Store for free. And this is my holiday in Spain. I had lovely 3 weeks of wandering around Spain with my camera, trying to get my sort of like, you know, get into the sort of like the Spanish lifestyle. And my daughter, very good, kindly of her, done some filming for this webinar, but she'd done it horizontally because she wants to be a film student. So in the edit, I was able to expand the image and make it vertical. So and reposition. So even if you do find that 90% of your stuff is vertical, but that one clip is horizontal, and you can go, oh, it doesn't matter. Just expand it, move it around a bit, and readjust, just like I'm doing there. And you can see you've got a timeline running along the bottom, and it just works quite effortlessly. There's no sort of real buffeting or anything like that. You can add text, you can add music, and it just works, and it's constantly improving. And they are adding new things time and time again, which really does make a world of difference. I'm going to stop it there because I'm very mindful of the time, and I don't want to go on too long about it. And I'm going to open up to some questions. So it says we've got 25 questions. So I'm going to do my best to get through as many as I can. But afterwards, what we'll do is we will somehow get as many of the questions answered and email you all. And then obviously we're available for one-to-ones. Okay, so let's move on to questions, Emily. And don't trust your speaker. She is American. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dean. That was wonderful. Yeah, so lots of questions. So first up, are you noticing a preference in terms of whether audiences are more engaged with that like organic DIY videos versus the more glossy, like full production videos?
Yeah, totally. It pains me to say this because I was part of the glossy gang, but it's the user-generated content type style stuff is so much more impactful because it's got a more authentic and genuine voice. Yes, you can do like the glossy stuff, and you know, but if you're honest and it looks from the heart, then it does generally get better engagement, and people become really invested in you as an organization or as an individual if you sort of, you know, if you show this sort of like behind the scenes and what it takes to create the final thing. So I do believe a little bit of personality goes a long way. It doesn't always have to be sort of corporate and glossy. There's nothing wrong with those, but I just don't think it gets the engagement that it used to. Emily, have you frozen on me? Oh, no worries. Moving on to my. Oh, you back?
We're back. Okay. Yeah, fingers crossed. It'll hold out for 5 more minutes.
Put another 10p in the meter.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and so next, to kind of maximize what you're getting out of the algorithm, is it better to record your video in TikTok and then edit in TikTok, or is it better to record on your phone and your camera on your phone and then upload to TikTok and edit there?
I haven't seen any data to suggest otherwise. I haven't seen anything that suggests one way is better than the other. for the reach that you may or may not get, I would always go down the route that makes it simple for you. So if you find it's easier to edit in the app, then do so, and then post natively. But if you feel that you need a little bit more control or a little bit more precision, and you want to put it into an editor, fine tune it, and then upload it, whatever suits you best. I haven't seen any evidence to suggest uploading it natively is better.
Okay, and videos on Facebook don't seem to do as well. So do you have any specific advice for Facebook videos?
Yeah, we've both. Facebook is wonderful for that sort of like community if you already have that community, but they still mean that your videos don't seem to go as far. And I don't know if really if Nicola or I personally have not seen a real way around it. I don't know whether they're sort of like hamstringing the videos, or they're trying to get you into a paid model where you have to pay for it to get the audience you already have subscribed. It's an absolute minefield. I don't actually have an absolute answer for that. Unfortunately, I wish I did, because it would make so much sense, and for many people who've built up an audience on Facebook for so long, and now they can't engage with them organically with their own content. They have to pay for that privilege. So I think it's something that's internally happened. I just don't see. It's great when the video is shared quickly in the first sort of like moments it's uploaded, to get as many people. This goes for all of them. So get as many people as you can to possibly share with it, particularly on LinkedIn and on YouTube. If more people share, then that's a big plus. Watch time is also really good if people go right the way through to the end. But obviously, if you then have trouble after that, it's because they're deliberately sort of like preventing you from getting the audience that your content should be getting.
Okay, and are subtitles good to have on this like short form content, or do they make them too busy?
No, it's 100%. If you can get subtitles on there, they don't have to be the standard sort of like European foreign film sort of subtitles. You can have bigger, clearer sort of subtitles, but they just help. One, it's nice for accessibility. Not everybody's sitting there with the music on. They might want to see the video first and go, actually, this is right up my street, and then choose to press the audio and listen to it. And it just makes anything that you say just so much easier for them to understand. So I definitely think that subtitles, is a way forward. It's probably a bit of an art form to make sure that it doesn't look too busy. But there are, particularly in CapCut, some really nice options to make it not look so like a sort of a BBC documentary.
Okay, and then we have lots of long form, like 5 minutes long, good quality videos that are in landscape.
Yep.
Can we reuse this bank of content and editing them into shorter video or vertical videos?
Absolutely, yeah. Just as I was showing with CapCut, you've got the ability to take that. And you can also set it up so that they've got this very clever. It's a paid upgrade. I think it's about £5-10 a month, but it will actually track the person as well. So even if that person is moving around, the system will automatically track them and keep them in the center. So you definitely repurpose that content. There might be some wonderful sound bites in there that will really be absolutely perfect for a 1 minute long short video.
Is it possible to add a soundtrack or commentary after the initial edit is done?
Yes. Are they talking about then uploading it? I'm assuming, let's pretend that they're talking about after they've uploaded it. No. It is on Vimeo. You can change the video and the link stays the same, but it's better to get it edited and add the audio and add the soundtrack in the editor, and you're good to go there.
Where do museums stand using licensed music?
I don't believe there's any difference. That's a really good question. I don't believe it's not like with something along the lines of so are they that's a very difficult one, because if they're talking about licensed music, as long as they have the license, that's fine. If they don't have the license, then the likelihood is it'll be struck off and copywritten, and your video will never be seen by anybody. if they use something like CapCut or some of the stock music on YouTube, or they buy something like MusicBed or Artlist, they've got songs on there where you have royalty-free music. You can use those. You basically set up account. You link your social media channels to them. So if there is any copyright claim, they can automatically cross-reference it and say, well, actually, that channel there has paid for a license, and so on and so forth. And it shouldn't matter what organization you are. That works for everybody.
Okay, and I know we're running a few minutes over, so I'll have one last
question. Yep.
But is it better to post something as a reel or a post?
I'd go real, but do you know what? I'd probably as well see what your audience. I would go real to start with, but I'd also probably try and do A/B testing, see what because your audience, we're sort of generalizing, like everybody's the same, but some of your audience might prefer reels, but some of them may well prefer posts. But in my experience, from what I've seen so far, is reels are getting better engagement, and they're going further. But if you should notice that there's been a significant sort of like drop off in your engagement on reels, try looking at posts and seeing whether that's working with your audience, because your audience is different to the next organization's audience. You know, they might like some of the same things, but they're not quite the same. So yeah, sometimes it's about sort of like trying new things out and try not to alienate anybody, but try new things out and just see if it's your audience or it's the algorithm, which is constantly changing and constantly being updated.
Awesome. Well, still lots of questions that we unfortunately don't have time for, but yeah, this is a great opportunity to remind people that they'll have a chance to book in with you if they have specific questions for their organization. And yeah, well, thank you very much, Dean.
No, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Emily, for doing all the questions, and it's been such a sort of build up to get to this. It's been such a wonderful experience. Thank you so much for that.